How about a big round of applause for Ramy Youssef, season 3 of Ramy?
Hey, what up?
Dang.
Man.
Oh, good to see all these brown people on the Upper West.
Thank you,
92nd
guys.
Street.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I never started behind the curtain. What an exciting, we were just sitting here.
They felt very extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just in darkness coming up. We were watching it from the back. How did it feel to watch? You guys didn't know this. Ramy was in the back of the auditorium watching you guys watch season 3.
Yeah, I was watching you watch. It was. We saw a bit of. Yeah, it's really. This is a show that I think can feel very personal. We get into characters' private moments. And there's something about getting to see it with an audience and this many people that was just really exciting. So really grateful to you guys coming out. That was a blast, just getting to watch that.
All right.
That was really cool. That was
Has everybody seen all of season 3? All right. Okay, cool.
Has anyone seen none of it and tonight was your first night?
Yeah. Oh shit.
Oh, that's cool.
Y'all just like fuck with Ramy. You're like, all right.
Definitely spoiler.
We'll jump ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
Should we start at the beginning?
Wherever you want to start.
All right. So by the way, this is how we hang out now. Like, the only way I can hang out with my friends is if I go to their podcasts or moderate their discussions. But I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was 2017. You sent me the one of the first drafts.
Yeah.
Of what the pilot of season 1, episode 1 was going to be.
Wow.
And when I read that draft, and some of those scenes didn't make it in.
Yeah.
From the first scene, I was like, oh shit, Ramy's crazy. Ramy's out of his fucking mind.
Yeah.
Because every topic we're kind of low-key not supposed to talk about, you're like, all right, how do we heighten this? It'll be like sex, porn, abortion, a mom cursing like crazy. Like you just stack every scene. Want you, for the audience here, kind of break down how you crafted that pilot episode and why you wanted to create this world of like the Hassan family.
Well,
they are the.
The last name is Hassan. We took his first name.
Yeah. But they double S'd it, so let's
we double S'd it. We made it autumn. I think, again, kind of the thing that I wanted to make was I was really obsessed with the idea of creating that feeling of a relationship with God and the guilt that can come with it and the hope that can come with it and that internal feeling that can happen. And I like this idea of that spiritual grappling that we all have. And I think when I say God, I really mean the unseen. I just mean that we all have so many different references in how we talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I think even the way that we talk about faith can feel muddled because people have so many kind of negative things that go with it and positive things and whatever. And I guess that whole wrestling match was what was interesting to me. How do we talk about it in a real way? Not in a way that's dismissive.
Yeah.
Like all those things. How do we make room for all of that?
But I thought what was so different about your show when it first came out is it's so different than the anti-hero stuff. By the way, Ramy as a character just gets worse and worse season to season. Like you're somehow even worse in this season. I thought there was no way you could top season 2. It's like
hold my drink.
Yeah. Like I feel like you were watching Breaking Bad and you're like, nah, I can go harder in the paint. But what's so cool is there was a whole genre of TV shows with anti-hero. Right. Of like, oh, I don't want to be a good person.
Yeah.
I think what was so cool about your show is that you actually authentically showed a guy who's like, no, I believe, like I'm down. I actually believe in God and I believe in trying to be a good person. It's not a corny or pejorative thing of like, that's kind of cliche or trite. And then you just kept stacking the deck of circumstances that make it so difficult. What made you realize like, I gotta attack it this way?
Well, if the goal is trying to be good, the most interesting way to see that is watching somebody struggle with that and be unable to hide, and I think I think we think a lot about while we're making the show is how do you take that idea of who you think you are and then see who you actually are, right? And I think for me, I don't find him to be an anti-hero, and I'm not even saying you're calling him that.
Yeah.
I don't think he is. I think he's just really naked. I think that we're seeing everything that drives him. We're seeing his jealousy, his anger, his lust, his own kind of these things that I think plague everybody. We're seeing them really naked in the way that, you could almost be in someone's head, but it's all spilled out. And part of this character is he kind of just can't shut up, and he finds himself in these situations where, he's kind of unable to control himself, and he's unable to really, zoom out of the smaller picture that he's in. And I think humans can be that way. So I think he's a really human character, and I think what we realized as we were making the show very organically was we were kind of watching this ego death little by little. We're seeing this optimism in who he thinks he is, then we're seeing him really, he's trying to be in this Sufi center with this sheikh and this idea of a religious person, and that falls apart because it wasn't as sincere as it could have been.
Yeah, then he burns it all down.
He burns it down, and then we kind of see him give up on himself this season.
Yeah.
And I think part of what I'm excited in crafting is, one more chapter of this where we actually see him turn a more hopeful corner towards what could be an actual relationship with himself, and an actual relationship where he kind of is actually aligned with his values. And I think tracking that is something that means a lot to me, because I think the show resonates really well with people who are lost and confused. People who that's my fan base. It's like, who are you trying to target? The lost. But I think he's emblematic of maybe not who everyone is, but I think you could see a little bit of some part of your journey, or some part of your doubt, or some part of a period of your life maybe in what you see in the Ramy character. And then also as a show, I'm really obsessed with the other characters. I mean, we did a screening tonight where it's like, I think maybe I was in one scene. And
Yeah,
it's like,
crazy,
like there's so much going on here. We have, I think.
Why are you not in your own show? Ramy's not in the show at all.
Well, because we've got this amazing cast, and I'm obsessed with them.
Cast is crazy. Isn't the cast incredible?
They're unbelievable.
It's like,
they're unbelievable. They're unbelievable. Like,
all right, so let's give them their flowers. How did you stack the squad? Like, there are no weak links.
None. No. I mean, I think like it a lot of it is personal relationships and people I was really interested in writing for, and seeing them in a different light.
Yeah.
So I could break down the cast quick.
Break it down, yeah.
Amr Wekid plays my dad. I just grew up watching him on TV. The fact that, he was interested, this is like Egyptian movie star, celeb situation. And
what would be the Desi equivalent? What's the Desi? I'm not even, they're like, give us the Hollywood equivalent. I'm like, fuck that shit. What's the... No, like, would he be like Amitabh Bachchan? Like, is he like a older, like OG?
I'm gonna pretend I know who that is. Yeah, I think.
Oh, wow. All right. Damn, bro.
I'm very. Did you know Amr Wekid before my show?
No, but like.
No. Listen, we watch.
I'm not gonna make this like a masjid argument right now, but it's like.
We watch our culture. Yeah, it's like we're.
Don't even like. We're not gonna do the Bollywood. Like, come on, bro.
No, I would love if you send me. You've never texted me a Bollywood movie once.
To be like, watch this.
You've never put me on to any Bollywood.
I haven't. That's true. That's on me. That's on me. That's on me.
Like, I'm just supposed to be out here on my own, navigating it by myself.
I am that kind of arrogant about it.
Yeah, it's very arrogant. Like, you should find it on your own. No, I mean that's. You got to bring people to it, man.
I did this, by the way. We're just going to take a quick tangent. I did the CBS Sunday Morning interview with Willie Geist, and I was like, da-da-da-da-da, Ranveer Singh. And he goes, who? And I go, you don't know who the fuck Ranveer Singh is? And then I did this whole rant about, like, you should know. And it was.
But did you send him some links afterwards? Or
Yeah, no.
You just left him out in the
I
cold?
actually didn't. He was like, I don't know, man. He was really on one about this, not knowing a Bollywood star. Anyways.
See, this is why we're failing in community outreach.
I know. I'm not doing a good job. I'm not
just
doing a good
shaming
job.
people, you know. And that's
Yeah.
the shame that you're trying to make me feel for not knowing Bollywood's finest is, we got to move past that.
Okay. This is a moment of peace.
The Amar Weka, just legend. Hiyama Bess, just unbelievable. She's unbelievable. She's in everything. I mean, and low key and everything. And you don't. And I think that getting to write for her on this show has been one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
She's on other popular shows in which that I love, but I'll be like, why? She's so good. Why is she not doing more? And then we get to bring her here, and it's just one of the most fun things. And she's someone who's grown with the show. Obviously, actor this season. She produced our 2nd episode that we shot in Jerusalem. She directed our 7th episode. Wow. Is a big backbone of what we do. So Hiyam, I was very excited about. I didn't think we would get her because of Succession, because our shows were shooting at the same time when they first started.
Yeah.
And we worked out a thing with HBO where they were like, okay, which almost never happens. Anyone who knows just how TV runs, it's almost impossible to make the schedule work. It's almost impossible. Not even just, it's they'll be like, oh, we have this person signed, we can't get them. So just true miracle to get her. May Kalmawi plays my sister. I knew her through my acting school that I went to, Esper Studio in New York. Wow. Shout out Esper. Yeah. We knew each other for a few years before, and I remember first lunch I ever had with her, I was like, oh, she could play my sister. I knew. I know. I'd been thinking about that. Yeah. I sat with her at Cafe Mogador, and I was like, oh, I think you could be my sister. And I remember, Laith Nackley, who plays Uncle Nassim. I've known him since I was 18 years old. We did the Arab Comedy Festival together.
He was doing stand-up?
No, he was doing sketch. There was a sketch comedy wing of the Arab Comedy Festival, and we did this thing together, and it was interesting. He'd book a couple TV things, always just playing terrorist, whatever. Yeah. And I remember thinking he could be so much more. I was like, dude, you could be racist. Let's get you on the show. And so I wrote this role with him in mind, and then obviously it's Dave Merhej, Mo Amer, these are guys that I have toured with, I love, I made Mo's show with him as well, and, we all lived together. There was this apartment I had in LA.
I remember that, yeah.
Mo lived with me for a year, Dave lived with me for half a year, and we're just sitting daydreaming, oh man, what if we do, Steve Way, who, we wrote this role, I've known him since I was 10 years old, wrote the role, Steve, my buddy with muscular dystrophy, and I remember the network saying, who's going to play Steve? And I said, Steve. Yeah. And
did they make him test us, Steve?
Of course, he had to audition. They didn't know who he was. They'd never seen him in anything. Yeah. And then they kind of see him, and then they go, wow, who is this person? So this cast is obviously, our parents, Hiyam and Arm, known in certain circles, but everyone else just kind of this hidden gem waiting to have something written for them. So that's part of, to answer your question, it's from the inception of the show, I was really excited to write for other people. And that's why, even from season 1, I'm 10 episodes, I'm only in 7 of them. And then as we kind of go, I'm maybe arguably in less and less, but the joy of shaping the show and working with them is really fun for me.
So scene to scene, I think pound for pound, this is one of the best shows on television. Your scene work, the way he stacks it up, like the scene where she has to go get an abortion in the car with anytime I'm there's no way you could heighten this. You always find a way to heighten this. And I don't think people know this, but Ramy's superpower is he's able to kind of summarize a major plot point or twist. You can always do it in a sentence. And you'll tell me these things between seasons. So I remember after season 1, I was like, yo, Uncle Nassim is so unlikable. Because he goes, in season 1, Uncle Nassim is full current Kanye. Full on, hard in the paint.
Straight up.
And then you were like, I go, how are you gonna make this guy remotely likable? And I remember you whispered, you're like, in season 2, we find out he's gay. And that episode, really humanizes this guy who is, yes, he is a bigot, but he is also in the closet and he's like repressing this thing inside of him that he knows he is, you know?
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, I don't even think it makes him likable. I mean, and like, I even the goal with something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like looking at a guy who's carrying hatred, who's carrying misogyny, who's lashing out at other people, and then understanding what place is there for him in society. So therefore, he starts to hate society, right? And he's kind of this equal opportunity hater. I mean, we have this scene, you know, where in season 3 where he's ranking the races he doesn't like, which is it's kind of an insane scene, right? But you know, he almost kind of takes this joy in this idea that, you know, he's going to hammer in on differences, but it actually is all love, but he's actually really scared. And I think for me, in the position that I'm in, it's almost like, it's not like explaining it. It's not saying in a way of saying, oh, that's okay to be that way. It's more, a lot of what the show is kind of saying, hey, this is what it is. And I think I like to be in a position where, again, we show it in a naked context, you know, and technically there is no nudity, despite like what like my parents think. I'm like, there's no nudity in this show. But it is kind of, you know, how do we show things as they are, and then what conversations could that start? And almost like looking at that existing discomfort in a show like this and then saying, well, why is this character that way? And then you could get mad at the show, but then it's like, well, why is real life this way? You know, why is this what we're seeing in our communities, in our families? And I was actually just having this conversation with someone right before the show about, there's this really funny Jewish show called Shtisel, and there's an uncle that hates Muslims, you know, and I didn't even know, and they also got some cousin stuff. So there's interesting, like, I didn't even know about it until we had made a bunch of the show, and then someone told me about it, and I was like, oh wow, we're kind of getting at the same thing, where we're looking at these things in our communities and we're saying, well, why is that? And let's kind of create this ecosystem and really try and show these feelings in a way that you kind of can't talk about in real life.
Yeah, what I think what's so great is you actually, in my opinion, just go super hard in the paint. You don't hold back. And a lot of times when you're pitching a show or you're turning in drafts to the network, they'll always give you this note of like, you know, Uncle Nassim isn't very likable, or like, why would Ramy continue to make these mistakes again and again? What is redeemable about him? Or they'd be like, you know, the mom just keeps saying the F word. You know, I don't know if that's going to but what makes you go, I really don't care about that. I want to just show people, like, I want to show them as authentically raw, as you were saying, naked as possible. What makes you
again, like, I mean, I think, well, one is like, big ups to Hulu. They really give us a lot of creative freedom to make the show, truly. I mean, and it's really exciting because it's sometimes stuff.
Do you not subtitle the Arabic parts? And they're like, oh, they're probably saying something nice there.
Yeah, send them cuts with no subtitles.
Just like, oh,
or like the wrong subtitles, where it's just, they're just saying, oh, we love each
I love
other.
you so much. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Family is everything. Like, that's good.
And then they watch the cut and they're like, wait, what? You know, again, it's like, it's looking at, I think it's really important to have an opportunity to look at how things are, and I think that getting to discuss it in a TV show is exciting, you know, because, again, in our communities where there's a lot of stuff we don't talk about. So I had a buddy of mine call me and he goes, dude, I was at the mosque, the imam was talking about you. Right? And I was like, oh, well, was he saying something good?
Yeah.
And he was like, nah. And I was like,
wow. Yeah,
and
bro,
I was
that's
like,
crazy.
yeah,
you probably are like khutbah material.
Dude, oh my God. These guys were running out of stuff. I mean, I gave them like a whole season of khutbahs. They're like, they watch the season, they're like, oh, we're good till January. We got enough. The sermon, the sermon playlist is stacked. But I like that in a way. And it's not about,
Respect.
It's not about like I hate myself or I want, all press is a bad press. No, it's interesting to create a reference point in which we can talk about things that are difficult to talk about in communities. Yeah. So someone doesn't have to say, I'm gay. Someone can say, oh, hey, what do you think about that Uncle Nassim character? And what if someone was gay? Asking for Uncle Nassim. You don't have to put yourself on the line, or you could say, hey, I'm really struggling with the amount of shame I'm feeling, and how do we talk about that? And you don't have to put yourself on the line. Yes. So creating a reference point where everyone kind of, I think, views the show within our communities and feels it's almost this like mirror-like thing where people are maybe seeing something they don't want to see, and that's creating a reaction, or they're seeing something they always wished they could see. And so all those conversations are really exciting for me, and I think that they make me feel like hopefully we're contributing something.
Where do you start? Because I noticed that you'll have these, I think pound for pound, also some of your bits, your misdirection bits, are so amazing, and then to see it end up in the show. So if you've seen, has anyone here seen his HBO special Feelings, Ramy Youssef Feelings? So his bit about cousins, you ever go to a cousin's wedding and a cousin you grew up with and you feel like you had a vibe, and then you go to their wedding and you can't get over it, and then you talk about y'all are shaming me, but it's just you can't double cousin.
I think you remember the joke better than I do.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So that's a major storyline. You're like, I'm not just going to make this a 2-minute joke. Let's stretch the series. Yeah. Let's make this a 7-game series. Let's go to Egypt. Let's do the whole thing. Let me vibe with my cousin.
7-game series.
Yeah. What makes you know that, all right, this is the seed of something really special?
It's the kind of thing that just keeps having layers, and I think that there's, again, we kind of create this opportunity where you can talk about the thing that's hard to talk about, and so when it's there and it feels like, oh, we can watch the characters swim around in that for a while, we can watch them, have meaningful conversations, and then but even before all of that, I'm like, this just really makes me laugh, and if I'm saying it on stage, I'm like, it's just first and foremost, so it really funny. Makes me laugh. Yeah. And then how do we show it in a funny light and in a dramatic light and in a human light, and how much runway do we have with that? It gets to be really fun, so I think when I first started talking about even cousin stuff on stage or whatever, I could kind of feel it in the room of people being like, why are you talking about that? And then I could also feel it from certain people being like, but I agree, I get it. And I think that little intersection of why but yeah.
Yeah,
that's kind of what the show is built on. Yeah, right, why, but yeah, but maybe no, but all right, I guess. That whole journey. It's fun.
So a lot of people may not have watched the credits, but Ramy directs a lot of episodes over the course of the whole series. Yeah, so writer, star, creator, director. What do you think, in your opinion, is the most important thing you're looking for as a director when you're directing stuff and you're setting the tone of the world? Because I've heard from friends, mutual friends, they're like, Ramy's gift, AZ says this, Ramy's gift is understanding tone and his mastery of tone. And you've described, we don't have to name other shows, but bad shows are bad at managing tone. They're inconsistent in tone. So how did you know how to lock in on just the vibe and the mood of this show and keep tone consistent?
Right. I mean, I think it's interesting because in a way, the tone on the show has evolved and kind of shifts, and I think I've tried to kind of manage the tone almost in the way that, you would see years of someone's life, where there's years where someone feels more hopeful, and then there's years where you kind of are a bit depressed, and then we're kind of seeing this year where, okay, he's given up on himself. And so making sure that, the camera is doing that too, and the music is doing that, and the performances are doing that, is really fun, is really exciting, and it's really how do we hone all of that in a way that that gets it across in a way that can be like
But
as funny as
just,
possible.
the scenes are killing it in just dialogue. It's
Right.
not crazy cranes, Michael.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing too. It's like not overdoing it. You know, I mean,
yeah.
and I think, you know, a lot of times, you know, I'm definitely someone who, and I'll talk about this in my DP a lot, where, you know, I'll be like, dude, the scene is too important, and we can't do fancy camera shit. And then, because there's just too much dialogue going on, how simple can we get? And we have a few, like even in this third episode that we watched tonight, there's this like scene with, you know, Farouk explaining the Bad Bunny lyrics to Mesa, and it's a 3-minute one shot, you know, and we had a couple of like the network was like giving notes of, can we make this shorter? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I was like, no, because the second you cut, it's gonna feel like you're leaving that car, and like I need this Bad Bunny explanation to feel as tense as possible.
Yeah.
I need him selling these plates. That's another shot that we never cut. Like, I need that to feel like he's committing murder. He is selling his wife's plates. And like that is like, we gotta stick with that. And so finding those moments and being able to do that is definitely, you know, one of my favorite things.
Who's the DP for season 3?
Claudio Rietti, he's amazing. He's so, like, he just, the ideas he brings, and he gets this stuff better than I do. And he'll really, you know, I've learned a lot from him, and he set up so much, just so many frames where I'd like step away and then come back and be like, oh my God, that's great. You know, that's really dope. And then there'll be times where we'll adjust, where I'll be like, hey, you know, how do we step the visuals up of this, or how do we bring them down, or whatever? And so we shot list everything together, and we're kind of in constant communication about, you know, what that looks like. He did seasons 2 and 3. He was our camera operator, and then moved up. And there's something really interesting about the show is a lot of people have moved up in this show, which is, you know, we have PAs who have become, in our writer's room, you see credits on our show, a lot of those people started as PAs on this show. They were doing lunch order season 1, now they're writing, or they're in the show, you know, and that's something that, you know, I'm very excited about, because the people who have those ideas, and you know it from when we started doing stand-up. You could tell you're at the, you know, we'd be at the open mic. Yeah. And you see, you know, like it's a crazy thing in comedy, because you can watch someone do just one good joke in like a crowded open mic bar, and you, just from that one, you could be like, oh my God, like that, you could see her future, his future right away. You're like, oh my God, like just from one joke. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, cool. So that one joke worked. You just got to do like an hour
of that joke.
Of that looks like that, you know, but it scales. And it's the same thing, you know, I think.
What do you think the joke was that you did where you were like, this could be Ramy?
In terms of what could be Ramy, I actually know the exact joke, you know, and it was this joke that I
believe in God, not Oprah?
Yeah. I did on Colbert, I believe, you know, I believe in God, not yoga. I grew up in a religious community where the gay people had to come out to the religious people. Now I live in LA, and I'm a religious person who has to come out to the gay community. And I remember being like, saking that. I mean, I had a 45-minute tape, but that was the beginning of the tape, and taking it to networks and being like, yo, this is the show. And this is the tension that we're playing with, and it's like, he wants it all. He wants Mecca, he wants Burning Man. And you know, that...
He wants it all.
The claps are the Mecca fans, the woos are the Burning Man people.
Yeah.
No one who's been to Mecca is like, woo, Mecca. Like, that's not a...
What do you think the Venn diagram is like Hajj to Burning Man?
Hajj to Burning Man, Venn diagram?
Venn diagram of like,
it's getting bigger.
I've been to both.
It's getting bigger, yeah. Yeah, it's getting bigger. Everyone's looking for spiritual experience.
Everyone wants to go to the desert.
Yeah, everyone...
Everyone wants to go to the desert and be forgiven.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's so funny when I talk to people like who went to Burning Man, they're like, dude, it was just all love.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what clothes you're wearing.
No, they have like their own ihram kind of thing.
Totally.
Yeah. But that, you know, again, you can kind of see that from the beginning. And so that's what's been really fun about this process of making the show, is working with people at all these various stages, and just kind of, you see it, whether it be what they say on set or certain conversations, or people who will PA with us or be assistants will send you a script or an idea for a scene or something or whatever, and you can just see it. You see like this small thing, and then you understand, oh wow, that could really grow, and I want to be a part of that. And so the show genuinely is just full of people that I want to be just a part of what they're doing, because I think they're so cool. Right. And I'm like, yo, I want to write for you, or I want you to be on screen, or I want this or I want that. Like that is truly like, it's really fun to do it together. So even though it's like, yeah, my name is on a bunch of it, and obviously I'm the one who kind of has the authorship of where this particular project is going, this group is so talented that you'll see over the next, and it's already happening. I mean, we have like 3 Marvel action heroes already.
It's crazy. I know,
like
so
like
wild.
Maycal Maui's on Moon Knight, and Lathan was in Miss Marvel, and we have people who have already just off this show. Mo got his Netflix show, and he's Black Adam. Everyone's a superhero, and
Do you ever feel a certain way? You're like,
that I'm not every day. Yeah. I'm like, come on, guys, I couldn't, but I'm not gonna get greedy. But you'll see it. I think it'll be even over the next 5-10 years. Whether on screen or behind the camera, this is like a really special group. Everyone's gonna do really cool things.
All right, so I think the soundtrack is fire. I love episodes ending and then being like, what's the song that's going to be over the credits, right?
Yeah.
That's a critical decision.
Yeah.
How did you pick the playlist?
I think there's like, I have our music supervisor, Rob Lowry, is amazing. Him and I talk all year. We have a really, intimate relationship in that sense, but I kind of walk around a lot, and I got playlists of, between seasons where I'm like, okay, we got to put this song next season. We got to put this song. We got to put this song. And it's not all, Arab stuff or anything like that. It's all stuff that like is gonna hit, the emotion. There's this song. It's one of my favorite songs, and for anyone who's seen the whole 3rd season, it's at the end of episode 9. It's by this folk group, the Roches, these 3 sisters. And it's this song called All in the Family that is this like chilling acoustic song by these like 3 women from the 70s that I don't think you would think, oh man, bumping this has got to be on Ramy. You wouldn't think like that's got to be on the show. Yeah. But then you kind of watch it.
You're just on Spotify Rap Caviar and it just comes up. Like how do you get it queued up? Well, like you're just like in a coffee shop and you're like, what is this? Just...
I didn't even know how I found the Roches. I mean, I think that song, it might be a song I've been listening to for 10 years. Like a lot of stuff is stuff that's just, it entered, however I heard it. I don't even know that I could always track like the genealogy of it. But it's like we all had these songs we're obsessed with. Yeah. I mean, this is great. Malcolm Gladwell podcast about like all the songs you listen to in high school, like they're actually garbage, but you think they're amazing. Yeah. And I think a lot of this process with the show, I'll be like bringing things out from high school, and I'm like, is this actually good or is this suck?
You're like Nelly?
And I'm like,
no?
what do you guys?
Yeah. Ja Rule? No,
does that hold up?
Jagged Edge, we good? No?
And also, I grew up in Jersey, so I had like just some emo stuff. That never makes the show, I think. Yeah. But yeah, so the placement of it is something we think about a lot. We obviously, we created this relationship season 1 with Habibi Funk, and which was awesome, and they did an amazing job and continue to do an amazing job of digitizing a bunch of North African artists and taking stuff. I mean, this dude Giannis will find, he'll like fly to Sudan and find an old cassette and that he heard somebody had and digitize it, and not only do that but monetize it, and he's like sending checks to people who haven't gotten money for their music in decades, and the show really was a big part of Habibi Funk taking off, which is really cool. I actually just went to Egypt and I sat down with Hani Shnuda, who wrote our theme song and who is just this legendary Egyptian producer. And a lot of the music we use on this show was from his side project. so he was producing for like Abdul Halim Hafiz and all these big Egyptian artists who, for the Middle East, just powerhouses. And they're doing these amazing ballads, but then Hany's kind of like, no, I want to do this like funky stuff.
Yeah.
And everyone in Egypt was like, dude, this is gonna fail. And he'd put it out, it'd do well, but it never like peaked, it never hit hard.
It wasn't
then,
like a radio smash.
No, not like radio smash. And then, you know, now it's amazing. I mean, not just the way it's traveled through Spotify, but after being on the show, it's like, it's in commercials, it's at parties, it's like, you know, it's like I'll walk into cafes and restaurants and they're playing it, and I don't think they're playing it because I walked in, but like it should be like just playing it. But you know, and so when I met with him, because we're putting out like a commemorative record of it, but he couldn't believe it. He was like, I can't believe that I made, you know, this record, and you know, I'd never felt like it got like all the love that it could have gotten, and 40 years later.
That's so
you know,
cool.
it's on American TV. It's at the Golden Globes. It's like whatever.
That's
like he was
amazing.
so that was really cool. You know? That was really cool.
Yeah.
And that's just because the song is good. You know what I mean? It's not like and it took a lot of people for that to even, you know, be in a place that we could put it in the show. So
how'd you know? Like, did you even have an idea of what the opening theme song should feel like? I'm always interested when I ask people, is it like, did you call the shot before, or was it just, sometimes it comes to you? Because I'll have that too, where it's like, I know what I want before.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go to the composer and I'm like, I want it to feel like this. Yeah. And then there's sometimes where I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Just look at the cut. And you tell me, you know.
It's really, I put out the intention. So I remember saying, I want a song, and I was kind of describing the whole musical style of the show, but especially when it came to the theme song, I was like, I want something that my grandmother would play in Egypt and that you could play at an NYU party. And everyone was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Habibi Funk. You know,
That's
this Hani Shnuda, Masriin, you know, which literally translates to the Egyptians. That's the name of the band. But like that vibe where I play it and my grandpa's like, I know that. Yeah. That's the Egyptian soccer theme. Like they used to play it at Egyptian soccer games and on the TV broadcast. And you play it, you know, I was like, yo, what is that? Like, let me Shazam that. Like, you know, I want that on my playlist. And so the intention was there. For sure, and I think, you know, and that's part of the title card sequence as well, seeing Ramy in English, Ramy in Arabic, and they're almost like dancing with each other, because that was essentially the thesis of the show. It was, this isn't about erasing any part of oneself, it's about how do we synthesize in the times that we're in. That's awesome. And so it's a lot of thought went behind just what is that like 10-second intro to the show. Yeah,
that's dope.
Yeah.
When yeah, give it up for that.
Yeah.
It's so hard. It's so hard, like in comedy and storytelling and in like film and television specifically, seasons ending and then beginning a new season. Like there's so many shows you watch where you're like, bro, end the series here. Why are you? Why are we continuing this? Yeah. How did you know? Like when I saw the end of season 2, I'm like, I don't even know where season 3 is going to start. But you have this beautiful monologue that season 3 opens with this cold open, and then you have the reveal of that it's Ramy basically selling jewelry to somebody at the store, Eddie Pepitone. Yes. And how do you decide where to start? Because the opening of a season or your opening joke in a set is like, it's very difficult to choose. You're like, where do we start? Yeah. And you know, the amateur thing would be like, all right, we're going to pick up where we left off. Like, Ramy is naked with Mahershala Ali, and he's trying to make up for it, and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, we'll pick up there. Yeah. So for people who haven't seen season 2, they're like, what happens?
The you know, beginnings and endings are hard, but they inform each other, and so I think for us, you know, each season we've kind of jumped a bit of time and set the stage for what we're dealing with. And I think, you know, for anyone who's watched the season or when you do watch it, that beginning very much ties to what we're tracking the whole series, but very much this season, and it very much ties to our end. And so I think that, yeah, for us, it was this choice of wondering, what were the questions that he's probably been asking between the last time we saw him, and he's wondering about fate, and if everything was written, then why should I even try? And why did I fuck up? And I think we wanted to ask those questions, and then the conceit was, okay, so we're doing that, and it's actually very sincere, but then again, the most interesting thing is when it's funny, and then you realize, oh, he's just saying this to a guy so that he can sell him a ring. And we realize, oh, he's become, the salesman. And I think that so much of what we look at in this season, and part of why we started it this way, is capitalism is really at the core of a lot of the issues. Was that like fans of capitalism? That was like,
they're like, finally,
yo man,
I've been waiting.
Capitalism. That was like, I saw them in concert. They're fucking amazing, dude. You like them too? Capitalism has always, and this might offend you, fan of capitalism. It's always been at the core of this story, but I think that it is really in the forefront now. Yeah. And I think it's a lot of what we're discussing. And I think that it's interesting, like I think so much of the struggle that the parents are having this season with paying off the house, so much of the struggle that Ramy and his business partner Yuval are having going into this diamond business that they're unsure of, all of this is just driven by these realities of capitalism. And I think I've always wondered personally, how does that shape who you are? How does it shape your family and their anxieties and their fears? And how does it shape your own spiritual relationship? And what I mean by that is that, capitalism, I think, is, and those ideas are so invasive that even the way we look at religion is very capitalist. Because everything is like, you do this, you get this money.
It's transactional.
So everything's transactional. Yeah. And so everything is like, okay, if I make, this amount of money, that's good. If I lose my job, that's bad. And then we think about our spiritual lives that way.
Right.
If I do this bad thing, oh, I'm closer to hell. If I do this good thing, oh, I'm closer to heaven. But we're kind of losing the essence of living. We're losing
I
the
felt that.
essence
There's kind of like this
mercy, the essence of love, know. And so transactional is a great word. Actually, someone asked me this question where, we were talking, even, in this season, Ramy goes to Jerusalem, and we were talking about the characters that, span throughout the entire season in the show, but someone asked me, does Ramy have like a transactional thing with the Jewish characters in the show? And I was just, really clear in the sense of like, well, he's kind of transactional with everybody. Everyone in a way is kind of transactional in the way that they're looking out for themselves. And so much of where this season actually culminates is actually this, when you see it, and if you've seen it, is this moment of family kind of coming together and realizing that they need to be together and sitting in something that looks a lot more like love than it does look like self-interest. But there's this self-interest everywhere. Yeah. And so to me, there's never this thing that it's like, oh, we have this mega sheikh this season. He's not the villain. He's emblematic of something. Ramy has these people that he meets when he goes to Jerusalem who are part of, the Diamond District. They're not the villain. They are representative of where a system gets you. Yeah. So in a way, if there is a villain, it is capitalism. And I think that I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. And by the way, I understand the irony of this because we've certainly, we all benefit from a capitalist system. Yeah. So it's not, we all, an important thing for me in making this show is, first off, there's always a reminder that I didn't finish college. But then, I never want to be making a show that is ever pointing people towards necessarily this is what's right, or this is what you do. For as much as we talk about morality, it's not moralistic. It's more, can we point out these things that are clearly weakening our condition? And I think that, capitalism is one of them. I don't know the answer, but it's very clear that it's affected this family. And, the idea of the American dream, and that's really what, Egyptian Shark Tank's really all about.
Yeah.
You know.
Yo, we love Shark Tank.
Well, it's the immigrants. It's rags to riches in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
In 30 minutes, you could be an American. You know, like you could be rich.
Yeah. I used to think. Thank you. I used to think it was Jeopardy, but I really think that. I really think actually Shark Tank is the most immigrant-friendly show because all of our dads are kind of like, why didn't you start that company?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're always like, but why isn't that you?
Yeah.
You know? And then they love the Monday morning quarterbacking of like, that's so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is our favorite family program.
Well, someone sent me an article yesterday that Shark Tank is actually going to Egypt.
Oh, legit.
You saw that, right? Like a week after our show comes out. Like it's so like it's that happened to us last season too. We invented virtual Hajj, then they did it.
That's crazy.
Right after the show, 2 months.
All right, is there anything that, I don't know if you're allowed to, but is there anything that you cut that you were like, oh, I wish I would have done? Because people love, I love knowing that.
Right.
You ever been watching basketball and they're at the free throw line and they're talking shit to each other and you're like, what are they talking about? Let me in. What's Kevin Garnett saying?
I'm trying to think if there's any Kevin Garnett
I'm telling you,
thing.
they're gonna love it. Like
but
sometimes I would tell people like, hey, I'm gonna cut this joke, and they'd be like, ooh.
I'm trying to think, because it's funny, because you started this talk with calling me crazy, and I think it's because I don't cut those things. I think the whole show is the Kevin Garnett conversation. No, there's I can't think of a scene that I really wanted, or a moment that I really wanted that, there's like moments within scenes or stuff that we'll cut for time, we'll cut for pace, or there's certain bits of dialogue or whatever, but it's never because it was too crazy. We're certainly like, we certainly keep the crazy in. But there's like things I want to do that we haven't done, but I'm trying to think if there's anything like juicy that you guys would be like, oh shit. It's not interesting. It's like, oh, there's this praying scene we cut. I was like,
Do you have any ideas of how you want to start season 4?
Yeah, season 4 is, I have a lot of clarity on
Really?
how it starts, how it ends. I had an ending image when we were making season 1, and so, there's a lot of
You just have a
stuff
photo of Walter White dead. You're like, that's the way you got to end a series? All right, I'm gonna get into these questions, but before I rarely get to do this. This year's been kind of crazy in the comedy community. We've lost a lot of comics. Rest in peace, Jack Knight. And I've just done this as a personal thing. I just wanted to say, Ramy, we don't get to see each other that often, but I think I'm so honored to know you. I think you're one of the greatest storytellers of our class. I'm so proud of you.
So
I love you so much.
I love you, man. So appreciate
And
it.
one of the things I love when I watch the show, and it's so cool, he lets me come by and just visit the edit. But the test that I always have is, however I am with all my homies, where you're being just wild on WhatsApp, you're as wild as those WhatsApp conversations are, but you brought it all the way to Hulu. So,
It is.
yeah, I just want to say, man,
that should be our
so
tagline: WhatsApp on Hulu.
Yeah.
No, it means so much, and I don't know if you guys have gotten a chance to watch Hasan's new Netflix special, but it's absolutely amazing, and also just watching you as a performer too, because you're acting the shit out of that on like a whole other level. That's so impressive. And I got to see bits of it at Radio City, which actually is a really interesting story, because this was one of the coolest things that ever happened while shooting. We were shooting in the Diamond District, and that morning I'm texting with you, and you're like, yo, dude, like, because we've been talking about these Radio City shows, and our shooting schedule kept moving, and then I'm shooting, during it, and
I thought he was gonna bail.
Yeah, well, no, but because I go to him, dude, I'm shooting, and then he goes, all right, if you get a chance, though, if you have a gap, just come to Radio City and do a quick set, while we're filming. So we're filming in the Diamond District. It's like a long day, and then I'm just on text with your stage manager, and I'm like, hey, I'm in the middle of shooting a scene. It's kind of an important one, but I want to come do the show. And literally, the equipment guys are like, all right, we're gonna move from upstairs to downstairs. And I look at my first AD and I go, how much time is it gonna take to move the equipment from upstairs downstairs? And they go, all right, well, by the time we move that, and there's gonna be a little bit of a break, I'd say 40 minutes. And I look and I text your stage manager. I'm like, could I be on stage in 10 minutes? And she's like, run. And I get out a wardrobe, and I have a PA meet me on the corner, and it gives me my sweater, and I just run to Radio City Music Hall, like 7 blocks.
Yeah.
Go backstage. You like, literally, we take a picture, you hand me the mic, I go up. How many people are seated in Radio City?
It was crazy.
How many people?
I don't even know.
Does anyone know the capacity of Radio City? Because he's being modest. 6,000, and this guy sold it out like every single show. Crazy. Unbelievable. And so it was just a crazy thing of like shooting on set, they're moving equipment, I go do stand-up for 6,000 people, warm them up for you, and then go back. And then on the way too, I was texting with Mo about something because a cut had come in for one of the episodes of Mo. And then I was also that morning working with Sahar Jahani, who was a writer on our first season, and I'm developing something with her, and we had gotten notes back from HBO Max on this script. And it was this day where I went home at the end of the day, and I was like, whoa, it's amazing to see everybody doing so well.
Everybody has health insurance.
It's
dope.
great.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like amazing.
Like I was so
Sincerely,
grateful
man.
to just get to experience that with
Yeah, man,
you, and to
alhamdulillah,
be,
bro.
you know, experiencing that with everybody. So it was a really, I'm very, very thankful for you.
So let's get into the handwritten questions.
Handwritten.
Beautiful. All right. Ramy and Hasan, you both have so much agency over your art. What advice can you give young artists to honor our vision, ideas, and culture? What can you sacrifice and what not? Love you both. Besta.
Oh, that's really sweet. What advice can you give? You said Ramy and Hassan. I've been talking all night.
Yeah, what advice can you give young artists to honor our vision, ideas, and culture? What can you sacrifice and what not? I mean, for me, it's just basically like my wife, Bina, just has super veto over the Google Doc. So what I try to do is I try to go as hard as I can in the paint and then be like, hey, this is about to go public. Like,
it should be like, take that out.
Yeah, it should be like, come on, don't do that. You know, be like, all right, you know. And then I try to make it scare me a little bit.
Yeah.
But I really do look up to Ramy. Like, Ramy's a person I'm like, man, we could go so much harder. We could be way crazier. Like, even I remember you said this as a throwaway line, like, I want a free Palestine, but I'm horny. And then I think that's like the whole take of 302.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
but I'm horny.
Such a good bar.
Yeah.
Like, you're just little couplets, like, it's crazy.
Well, no, but the thing you're talking about...
You're like Egyptian Rick Rubin. You're like, I want it for Palestine, but I'm horny. I'm like, that's the fucking record!
No, it like, that thing about not being afraid, and I think you talk about this in your first special, you kind of isolate that phrase, you know, what will people say?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you did it in such a clear way. And I think making something, and anyone who wants advice on making something, it's really, don't focus on what will people say, focus on what do you think needs to be said, and how do you do that? And do that in your own way, and understand that it will not be for everybody, you know, and there are, you know, again, like I know a few sheikhs and a few who aren't even sheikhs that it's not for them, but that's okay, you know. I think knowing that that's not the goal. The goal is to say what you think should be said.
Yeah.
And that there is resistance, or that there is disagreement, or even that you didn't do it perfectly, right? Because it's like, I could look back, I mean, even watching a third season, it's the result of even looking back at 20 episodes and saying, oh, I want to do this thing better, I want to do that thing better. Mm-hmm. But that metric of what we think as a team could be better, even that's not so much based on like criticism we're getting from other people. It's more like, oh, well, we're clear on what we want to say and what we want to show, and how do we do that better, just because we've learned from getting to make it. Yeah. And so that I think is the most important thing, you know. And
how did you mentally deal with the thing of like, I'm not gonna, no disrespect, Little Mosque on the Prairie this. I'm not gonna do like likability politics. I'm gonna make.
Okay, so you bring up an interesting point, actually.
Yeah, and like you have to deal with the thing of it drops.
Right.
It's cool in the edit. And this happens also in comedy. You're surrounded by all your homies, and they're like,
Yeah.
that shit is amazing. But they don't
Right.
have to live with the blowback of what you said.
Yeah,
what you
because
did.
there'll
So
be
how
blowback.
do you kind of deal with that? You know?
But that's what's interesting though, is like even, you know, referencing Little Mouse on the Prairie, right? It's like that when that came out, you know, that was the first show of its kind.
Yeah.
In Canada, female showrunner, creator, and she got a ton of blowback for that.
Wow.
And it's really interesting because we could look at it and we can say, oh man, they don't, you know, that was sanitized or that was too sitcom-y or whatever, but she was getting a ton of blowback for even showing what she was showing. And so it's everything builds on what came before it. And I think the gaps are really cool, right? So I think there are even times where there are certain things we don't cover on the show. You know, this show, for as much as May Kalamawi's in it and Hiama Bass is in it, does not star a woman, right? And that leaves a gap
Right.
for the female showrunner creator that's gonna come in and in her pitch to a network is gonna say, yo, yeah, Ramy was dope, but fuck that guy, he didn't do this. Let me show you what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And those gaps are important, you know, so they allow like the next thing to come. And I think I'm again, that's another thing that's exciting to be a part of, because you're like, oh, cool, like we do what we can. And this is why it's so important to be focused on just what you wanna say, because when you're trying to say all of it, then you say none of it. And when you just say what you want to say, it shows that could work, and that could be a good show, and then it kind of creates the space for someone else to say, okay, cool, now I'm going to be really specific about what I'm going to say, and that gap allows that, and so that's exciting. You know?
All right, what did you have to do to get Bella Hadid on the show? And then it says, great season.
This is just deep question after deep question. Bella, no, not much. I mean, we had a great couple conversations, and she, I had heard she wanted to act, and we had mutual friends, and I wanted her to play something that would just be funny. And
that's such a flex. We have mutual friends. That's such a flex.
Yeah, I hang out with models. No, it's not. No, there's no. Just
Yo, like the people I know is like, oh, they're a member of Congress. I'm like, either C-SPAN 3 famous, like come on, bro.
Hassan's just
Bella
like
Hadid.
having got.
Bro,
Yeah.
Bella's gonna free Palestine. Like, come on.
Hassan's.
All right. But you guys had these combos.
I'm just thinking about you, like you just hanging out with Don Lemon.
Yeah.
Like you and Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
At a
Funny
Knicks,
stuff, man.
At a Knicks game.
Yeah.
You and Wolf Blitzer at a Knicks game courtside would be iconic.
Oh, dude, me and Fareed Zakaria would be my dad's like dream come true. My dad's dream come true is me being Fareed Zakaria. He's so smart, It's just classy.
Does he ever? Yeah, is he just like that could be you?
He's just like, it's classy. It's just classy. Like, I couldn't show him this. Like,
Yeah.
Be like, oh God. All right, where do we go from here? How do you expect Muslims will be portrayed differently in Western media after the Ramy show?
I think that there's kind of hopefully an inflection point where we could just be. And I think this show, there are certain things that we are excited to accomplish because they feel really relevant to the conversation that we're having now. But as the overall landscape. But I think it could be really exciting to, I just keep thinking, you watch something like Tim and Eric or Eric Andre or like a lot of these kind of, I love that just really irreverent, odd comedy.
Yeah.
And I think we have a space in that
Totally.
where we're not, it's not political. We're not talking about our existence in a political sense and whatever. I personally dig talking about those things, and I think that I have an offering to doing that in the best way that I can. But I think we get to places where, we just are, and we're just, and that.
You follow this guy Waleed on Instagram, on TikTok?
Oh, of course.
Waleed, where he's just out there. Remember Just Rain? At Just Rain?
Yeah, of course, dude.
Like he's just a wild dude.
Yeah. Just like having fun.
And it's just sheer, just like silliness and irreverence.
Fun and silliness,
Yeah.
And I think that there's just room for everything. And so it's about being in a position where we just have more options, because I think it's really scarce right now. There's a crazy scarcity. There was that study that was done. It's like billion Muslims, and then 3%, it was 0.3%, 3%. It's don't quote my stat. It's not good though. It's like a bad stat, and then what are those characters even look like, in terms of how diverse of a population we are.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot on the table. A lot's left on the table.
Sure.
So in terms of where we go, it's just more.
Many would say the female Arab American experience is very unique. What inspired you to include this perspective in your show? This is from Yasmin.
Yeah, I mean, again, like that it's not there, and I think that I'm proud of how we've dug into it over the course of our show so far. But again, kind of like I said earlier, there's room for something that's led by somebody who can really dig into their own life bank in the way that I get to, and that'll be really exciting too. But yeah, it's interesting. Like we almost take for granted. It's because it's like you've had great success, and we've been able to do stuff with Mo and this show as well, and it's almost it feels inevitable that there are going to be and again there have been. I mean, if you look at Little Mosque, if you look at Lady Parts, Nita Manzoor, she's doing amazing stuff. That's on Peacock, so that's like
Parts.
U.S.
We Are Lady
here.
Parts is amazing.
So it's just about more, and like looking at that conversation. And so I think that we put it in our show because we have Arab and Muslim women in our writers' room, and we love those stories. But what I was going to say is the thing is the idea of even being a Muslim man or a Arab man in this context, I think we just forget, even though we have a few options now, it's like that's not something people have really gotten to see outside of the context of violence, of extreme violence in Western media. And so, having these strong female characters is really important, and it is part of kind of what is a story that's totally told from this male perspective.
Yeah. This is the last question, then we'll get out of here. What does being a Muslim mean to you?
I was like, better be better than that capitalism answer. This is so funny when you can hear your friend I heard.
Oh, you know that? Okay.
No, I don't know who did the O, but I know who, there was a laugh.
Yeah.
There was a Danish Maqbool laugh, but the...
Oh, snap. I know that laugh.
Very specific, yeah.
Why is D-Mac in the crowd?
I don't know. He's like, yo, I'm rolling up. I'm like, all right. What is being Muslim mean? I mean, I'm trying to answer this without... I just got to be sincere, I guess.
That's mine.
Like, I want to say love, but I feel like that's like...
Don't Hallmark card this, bro.
Can I say that?
Love?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like I tried to say it, and you're like, bro. Like, it's, bro, come on, bro. Oh, bro, you're going to say love? Like, that's that's what this show is about. It's like a guy tries to show his feelings, and I was like, man, shut up. Like, come on, dude.
It's funny because...
Do I need to shout it? Mercy, forgiveness, love, community. See, now you don't care because I'm shouting it and I'm angry and I'm just up here saying love.
I'm proud of it.
No, you're not. You called me Hallmark. I just tried to say love. I was struggling to say love and you go Hallmark, and now I got to shout love.
We love you, Ramy. I love you. Ramy Youssef, everybody.
Thank you, guys.